good evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome to Nashville. The United States has a tangled relationship with China, and it's showing. We buy lots of what they produce, and they hold a lot of our debt. Yet it's a codependency that might be keeping things from getting worse. What's behind the imbalance? Well, there are 1.4 billion Chinese, and the ones who work make an average of just $20 a day. There's no way American business or America's workers can live on that. The Chinese have a nearly free pass to sell whatever they want here. But when it comes to U.S. goods being sold in China, there are considerable roadblocks. High tariffs, regulations, excise taxes, and special rules from the Communist Party, those are among the barriers. And what the Chinese don't have in actual knowledge to make their own, they steal it from American companies, and it's called intellectual property. Well, that's the economic landscape, but it's Chinese investments in military assets that are an even bigger threat. Aircraft carriers, missiles, traditional weaponry, but also cyber weapons, robots, and military capabilities for space, they're all in the pipeline. So what do we need to do to both thrive and stay safe? Well, for that, we're joined again by Captain Chuck Nash. Welcome back, Captain Nash.
Pleasure to be back with you, sir.
Tell us first how the Chinese military measures up to ours if it came to a fight over Taiwan, for example.
That's an away game for us and a home game for them. So they have the distinct advantage. The other thing is, well, we spend multiples of what they spend on defense. But what they spend on defense goes further in their economy than our dollar goes in our economy here. So their shipyards, they've got 4 or 5 shipyards cranking out shipping. They build more ships in a month than we build in a year. Wow. And they have the capacity to ramp that up. So they have the world's largest Navy today. We gave that up. So they've got that, and they've got their island chains that they're building out with these artificial reefs, and then they're militarizing them. Their neighbors are not happy with it, but there's not a lot they can do. So this is an existential issue with the Chinese, because they realize that when they're divided as a people, they're conquered from the outside. It's always been in their history for thousands of years. And that's why they look at Taiwan as Chinese people, and there's a division. And as a Jewish friend of mine says, it's a stone in my shoe. It's just a constant reminder that something's not right. And they're going to try to do it without going kinetic. The business relationships between those on the island of Taiwan, those islands, and the mainland are growing every day. So this, I think, we can stay away from the kinetic action just so long as we don't provoke action there. They realize that if they try to take Taiwan militarily, that it will be a disaster. They're going to have to cross hundreds of miles of open ocean to get to those islands. Now, they're building out a capability to prove that if they wanted to, maybe they just might. And that's enough to keep us and the rest of the world off balance, because maybe they just might. And then they start with, as you pointed out, with the mind games, which is to the American people. Can you point to Taiwan on a map? Are you willing to have this thing maybe go nuclear? You willing to give up San Francisco and Los Angeles? I mean, what's it worth to you? So it's a patience game, it's a waiting game, but in your lead-in, you pointed out the economy of China. Time is not on their side. They went to that one-child policy. Their population is aging rapidly. A lot of industry is moving out of China and into South Vietnam, or to Vietnam, actually, and the Philippines and other areas. There are things called Chinese dark factories. Look that up on online. They're completely robotic. There are no human beings that work there other than those who maintain the robots. So they have an issue that's coming. They have water problems, natural resource problems, vast pollution problems. because they have been bearing the brunt ecologically of the battery production for these electric vehicles. Their savings rate is around 35 to 40%, and they've got banks that are failing and are merging all the time. They've got ghost cities that they've had their people invest in, and now you have these cities with high-rise buildings and nobody living in them. So that ordered economy that sometimes we look at and go, "Boy, I wish we could do that." None of us want to live like that. So time is not on their side. That makes them dangerous, but also gives the world a chance and gives peace a chance.
Well, we keep seeing pictures of Putin and the Chinese leader together. We know that Russia got help from North Korea during the war. Our new defense secretary says we're shifting focus right now to prepare. Listen to what he said.
We're also in real time shifting focus over to the Indo-Pacific. You saw it with my first trip. You'll see it with our budgets. You'll see it with future travel, with exercises, with what we're meeting and talking about every day at the Pentagon. We understand the motives, the capabilities of the Communist Chinese, and we're ensuring we build a military today and going forward capable of deterring that conflict.
Chuck, there doesn't seem to be any imminent threat, beyond Taiwan that we've talked about. Am I correct?
No. I believe you are correct. I don't think there is an imminent threat, and I think this is a standoff. And what's the problem with standoffs is the inadvertent action that leads to conflict. When you have forces that are up against each other, that's why maintaining a presence is a good thing to do, because you don't want to go away, then all of a sudden you come back and now, what are they doing now? No, it's just a constant, this is the way things are kind of world, and that's what we need to maintain.
Well, Captain Nash, please stay with us for another segment. I want to get into how the Chinese military programs may fit in with the new world of AI and whether that will help or hurt. I'll be right back. We're back now with Captain Chuck Nash. One new item on the table: President Trump has asked for billions of dollars to build an American version of Israel's Iron Dome over our country. And he thinks he can get it done in just 3 years. Here's how he describes the need.
I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. And that's what we're doing. Today I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors.
Chuck, is the president concerned about long-range missiles from China as well as from Russia and Iran, or from ships?
I believe he is. And, Pastor, the technology has ramped up significantly since President Reagan presented a proposal for his Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, which was labeled Star Wars, but not by him, but by his detractors. But the SDI was the acknowledgement that the way to really defend America is not to go overseas and with everything that entails, but maybe it's just to defend from space and from ground-based interceptors here in the United States. So if everything goes wrong and the ICBMs fly, we have to be able to deal with that and not say, well, that problem was too hard. The other problem that we need to look at is that things have gone on far beyond ballistic missiles, which have a ballistic trajectory and therefore are predictable to intercept, even though they're going very fast. We're now in the world where we have hypersonic weapons. Hypersonics are even Mach 5 plus, but they don't fly a ballistic profile. So they're much, much, much more difficult to intercept. So that's why we need things like directed energy weapons, as well as physical interceptors to get close and either explode or go metal to metal in a contact. So technology is improving, AI will help us with that, and hopefully we'll be able to beat this thing down. The Russians and the Chinese are saying, if you do this, what you're doing is you're walking away from mutual assured destruction, which is what has kept the lid on the nuclear holocaust. Because it would be like if Russia launched, we're going to see it and we're going to counter launch. Whoa. Well, that almost happened a couple times by accident in the last 50 years. So the defense idea is, well, wait a minute. If you get this golden dome and you can protect yourself, there's no longer mutually assured destruction because you don't have to worry about it. But we do. So they're going to try to play that, and they will work with the political left in this country to try to talk this down, just like they did with President Reagan.
What do you think about the president's timeline for 3 years to construct and implement this Golden Dome? Is that realistic?
I think that might be a stretch, but I think we could have a rudimentary system in place to deal with certain threats. So we just have to start taking the threats off the table as we go. And of course, he's not going to be able to get the full funding to do everything in 3 years as well. So there's a lot of technology that we have yet to exploit that would become available, but then you have to integrate that. And we're going to have to integrate new with new, not like we're facing right now with the Federal Aviation Administration, where we have these outages in Newark and Denver and other places, where we've tried to couple new technology with old technology. That's a hard thing to do. So we have to go new with new, which means the Golden Dome would be all new technology integrated for the next 50 years, not try to take old technology and make it work.
You know, Captain, you're an accomplished naval aviator, so you understand about fighting wars in the sky, but it seems like with Space Force, space is not just the next frontier now, it's an essential part of our national security and has to change how we think about who we are and how we protect ourselves. How's the military doing with adding that new layer? I know President Trump initiated the Space Force, but it still seems pretty new.
Well, the satellite programs that were in existence when I was read into them back in the day were pretty phenomenal. So I can only imagine what we have now. I'm sure that we have full global constant surveillance at this point. We probably also have sensors that can pick up launches far beyond what we could out of the mountain back in the day. But even then, we could see missile launches. So today, we can probably see a lot more. So staying ahead of that program, yeah, that's gonna take money. But again, what happens in the secret programs, we call them black programs. Only those who are read in really know, and I'm not read in anymore.
One last question. I'm sure that the Pentagon is thinking through what might happen when you put together a force of robotic weaponry and let it run on AI-driven autonomy. It's pretty scary to consider, especially if the AI is programmed by communist thinking. That seems like a bizarre new world we're facing.
It really is. And the inventor of AI, in his Nobel laureate, his Nobel acceptance speech, cautioned the world and the scientific community about AI. And that is what futurists predicted, 15 years ago, which would be when the computers could reprogram themselves. And there have been instances already where computer engineers were trying to update an AI system, and the system realized that it was being updated. So it made a copy of itself and inserted it into the program so that it wouldn't be changed, it wouldn't die. So these things, we have to be careful because this is going to be as powerful for human beings as electricity. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And if we don't keep control of it and it unleashes itself, who knows what could happen. These are dangerous times.
Well, thank you, Captain Nash, for your wisdom. We hope to see you again very soon.
I look forward.
And when I come back, some thoughts of my own about moving forward, knowing what we know now. For several years, China has had free rein to patrol the globe and try to assert their will. The Chinese government is communist, authoritarian, domineering. They practice slavery, social control, and manipulation. They oppose free speech, and that spirit has been unleashed on our world. We're witnesses to this spirit gaining influence on a global basis. In the United States, we've shown very little will to thwart it until now. I'm grateful for the change we're seeing under our current administration. The U.S. has stopped capitulating to Chinese ambition, and that is good news for all of us. Now, some will undoubtedly say, you're a pastor, why do you care? Well, for more than 100 years, communism has been on display in our world. In every place it's gained the primary authority, one of the first things it has done is imprisoned the leading voices in the churches and diminished opportunities for the gospel. So it should matter to every Christ follower. Communism is not just another economic system, it's one of the most destructive, murderous expressions of human authority in history, and it's resulted in horrific suffering. When there have been rises of authoritarianism in the past, there was usually a force that would rise up against it, and that force wasn't political primarily, it was spiritual. Unfortunately, we've forfeited on a very personal level our willingness to address truth. We've said, we'll just go along and get along. And that attitude makes us very easily cowed to authoritarian influences. We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be identified as being judgmental. Well, we as Christ followers must be the voice of truth in this season of cultural change. And I encourage you to start in your homes with your loved ones. Start to think in terms of your sphere of influence, the people that you interact with. If we'll do that, I assure you there are more reasons for hope than despair. We'll be back with your emails in just a moment. Hey, we appreciate you taking the time to send us your emails, your thoughts and opinions. They matter to us. Just a quick reminder, if you miss a program, you can always go to ajnow.com. They're all archived there. You can see them at your leisure. You can also sign up for our free newsletter and keep up with all that's happening around the program. And most importantly, share it with a friend. Let them know what you've learned will help spread the truth. A viewer on YouTube with the episode from Senator Kramer wrote, on the subject of overtime, my neighbor once told me that the government gets the time and I get the half. I understand. I hope the new budget bill that's making its way through Congress will help a bit with some of those simple adjustments to how the IRS sees our resources. Sandy L. emailed, the Democrats seem to have Trump hatred for hatred's sake. It's as irrational as anti-Semitism. What about America and Americans? Their own constituents are not even being fairly represented, and they should be voted out of office. We love your programs and feel as though God has lifted up your voice of reason for such a time as this. Well, I think the hatred for Trump and anti-Semitism, the underlying forces behind that really aren't political or international. I believe they're spiritual. And I believe that's why those of us with people of faith have such an important role to play in helping to stem that tide. If we'll be involved and use our voices, I think God will respond. Yolanda from Burlington, Wisconsin said, we love the Alan Jackson Now program and Alan Jackson Ministries. They're my go-tos for information and to hear about our Lord and Savior. I want to thank you, your family and staff, for all that you're doing, praying for all of you, and may God bless you all. I love you all. Well, Yolanda, thank you for your kind words. This is very much a team effort. It takes many people, clever people, hardworking people to make this possible. And without your engagement and you being a part of it and you sharing the news about the program, none of it works. So let's work together and spread the news, and we'll help tell the truth more broadly, and we will see God bless America again. I'm Alan Jackson, and you have a wonderful evening.